Gentleman from Kentucky is recognized for 3 minutes.
I thank the distinguished chairwoman from the Rules Committee, a native Kentuckian and someone who has always stood for the finest traditions of this body. In November of 2006, the American people decided to give the Democrats the control of the House of Representatives and the Congress. I was fortunate enough to be elected as one of the 43 new Democrats in that class. And many people have said in examining that election, oh, we were elected because of the war in Iraq. But that's not what I heard. What I heard when I was campaigning in 2006, and I think most of my colleagues in this class would say the same thing, is we want to return the government to the tenets of the Constitution. We want to restore the checks and balances that the Founding Fathers prescribed. We want to make sure that this president and every president is held accountable, is not above the law. So when we came here, one of the things we did was to start talking about Article 1. Article 1, which established the Congress of the United States and vested all legislative powers therein. We started wearing these buttons, Article 1 buttons, and we offered them to members of both parties, hoping that this would not be a partisan issue and not be an expression of partisanship, but instead of respect to the integrity of this institution. Unfortunately, most of my colleagues on the other side chose not to wear these buttons. They've chosen to make this a partisan issue, in spite of the fact that during the last 6 years before we took control of the Congress, no subpoenas were issued against this president. No efforts to hold him accountable were made, in spite of the fact that in the prior administration 1,000 subpoenas were offered by the Republican Congress to the Democratic president. So unfortunately, this has become a partisan issue when it shouldn't be. To me, this is all about institutional integrity, about restoring the checks and balances. Fundamental to our power, legislative power, is our ability to gather information. If we do not stand up for our right to gather information, then in spite of the fact that my colleagues on the other side have said, well, we may lose our prerogatives if we go to court, if we don't challenge the president on this issue, we will have surrendered our prerogatives, and that is the worst fate that we could commit this body to. So I would say in closing that many people look at the polls today and say the standing of the Congress is at its lowest ebb ever, and they say maybe that's because we're not doing anything. I think it's because the American people recognize that we have been negligent in not upholding our responsibilities under the Constitution. This is an important step in restoring the integrity of this institution and restoring the confidence of the American people in this body and its willingness to respond to the dictates of the Constitution. I yield back.